All right, welcome. Looks like we've got a few folks coming in. We'll get started here in just a moment. We'll let everybody get in, but welcome. Go
Welcome,
ahead and
everyone.
Yes. Welcome, welcome.
let me pull up the chat here. Go ahead and let's hear where you're coming from in the chat. I'd like to know where everyone is located. Uh, say hi. Awesome.
Let's see. I always like this part. Biloxi, Mississippi.
Hey, Bethan. Hello. Kokomo representing. All right.
I spent a little bit of time in Biloxi, Mississippi in the Air Force. And the thing I remember most is that it was close enough to drive to New Orleans and Bourbon Street. That's about my takeaway
Hey, the
from my
important
time.
stuff.
The important stuff is my time in New Orleans.
Okay, well, this is fun.
Yes.
Uh, Mexico. All right, we're getting everybody in here. Okay, perfect. Well, we're going to go ahead and get started here while we let everybody come in here. But by way of introductions, real quick, I'm going to start off with my name is Jordan Pine with PM University, Property Management University, your source for property management education. And we're glad you found us and that you're here today for part two of the owner experience webinar series with Blanket. Okay. And today we're focused on the business development mastery. So whether you're we hope you're BDM here, but if you're not, that's okay. You're still going to learn some great stuff. But anyone who is working on the sales side, but here's the deal. Every role within property management, it deals with a component of sales. And being better at sales only helps you in your role regardless. So we're happy you're here and we're excited to get started. We have a lot of information to get to today, so we're going to rapid fire this and really get this going. But I'm going to I'm going to kick it off to Jason to introduce himself real quick. Then he'll turn it over to Leor with Blanket, who is going to take us home and get us kicked off. So, Jason, over to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Jordan. Appreciate it. And welcome, Leor. This is always fun when we do these. Part two of our three-part series. Jason Wolf, I'm the founder of Property Management University. I've been in real estate and property management for 20 years and have a property management company here in Utah. And about a year ago, I seen a real need in formal structured training for our industry. And so we launched Property Management University, and we're really excited for some of our founding instructors and some of the topics that we offer. I encourage you guys to check them out. But this is not about me. This is 100% about the owner experience management and Leor and Blanket. So thank you guys for joining us, and I'm going to turn it back over to Leor. Go for it, man.
Awesome. Thanks, Jason. Welcome, everyone. Good to see some familiar names and some faces. I know Jason said it's about owner experience management, Blanket and Leor. I'll try to make it all about owner experience today, less about me and less about Blanket, because I think there's so much to cover in this, so much that we've talked about this episode right before we started. Like, how are we going to fit all this information in 1 hour? Because there's just so much to cover. And my goal, or I would say warning, is that I'm going to be sharing a lot of information today, a lot of insights, and I'm going to do it quickly because the main purpose of today is to give you a little taste of what the course is covering, but enough to make it valuable. So if I'm running too fast, this is why we have the Q&A. Submit your questions there. We'll get to that in the end. A little bit about myself. Based in Miami, born in Israel. So if you hear that little accent, that's where it comes from. Started my way in real estate, bought my first rental property when I was about 19 years old. It was a single family rental property in Atlanta, Georgia. I bought it from Israel, trusting some agent I don't even know, 1,000 miles away. Really, God knows what I was thinking, but thank God I did. Fast forward, after 9 years of service in the Israeli Navy as a naval commander, where I kept doing real estate throughout that time, helping a lot of my fellow naval officers to also buy properties in the US and do that same crazy thing like I did. And after that, I started working for a big investment firm that was focused on the build to rent sector here in the States, building new construction communities, selling them off to investors on a fund model, LPs, GPs, but also on what we call the retail model, where we would just sell each property individually to each one. Started there as their head of acquisitions, quickly promoted to vice president of business development, oversaw about $200 million worth of acquisitions, and had the opportunity to work with thousands of mom and pop investors, folks who buy 1, 2, 3 properties. And the unique model that we had at that company is where every property we sold to one of our clients, we always connected that client to a local third-party property manager. And the unique thing was that we actually continued to manage the relationship with those clients on behalf of our property management partners, which opened up a crazy world to me of what it means to manage this relationship between the client, the owner of the property, and the property manager. What works, what doesn't, challenges, missed expectations, anything that you can imagine, all the way up to generating thousands of spreadsheets and pro formas to actually show property owners how their properties are really doing, and presentations, you name it. And this is really what led to the birth of Blanket, the pains that I personally experienced, and the pains that my friends, my property management friends, experienced as well through that whole journey. So a lot of what I'm going to share today is some of those battle scars and things that I experienced myself along with my property management friends. And I hope that you will find it very, very interesting. So some housekeeping, and I'm going to share a few slides to really go through everything quickly. So today's webinar is the second webinar of our webinar series that includes 3 episodes. And today's focus is on business development, on sales. And as Jordan said, sales is a component that is technically relevant on every role in the company. So there's a lot to learn here. And I invite you to not just listen to what I say, but to also think about ideas for your business, things that I'm not necessarily sharing, but things that spark some imagination and some inspiration on other things as well. So last time we kicked off the webinar series with episode 1. This was the high-level overview of what the course talks about and high-level overview of some of the specific chapters that we've chosen to highlight. Today, we're focusing on the business development team. So deep diving into marketing, sales, onboarding, handoff, and expansion. Who is this relevant for? Your BDMs, the sales team, real estate sales as well have some connection here, and also anybody who's doing marketing and coordinating that as well. In our next episode, which will be next week, this is where we're going to focus on the property management team, and we're going to do a deep dive into onboarding, retention, termination, and this is going to be relevant for your property management team, portfolio managers, assistant property managers, and anybody who has something to do with the management of owner/tenant relationships. A little bit about the course, about the owner experience management course. So we got 3 tracks, each one leading to a certification at the end. Track number 1 is for the company owner, seeing everything from a high level, being able to take all that information and implement it in your business through different stages of the client lifecycle. Track number 2 is for the business development teams. So again, anybody who has something to do with sales, this is the track for them. Track number 3 will be for the property management teams. And again, as you see, it has the same structure as the webinar episodes. General high-level overview for the company, then focus on sales, and then focus on the property management side of things. We got multiple chapters here in every course, and each track has their own relevant chapters. The broker owners, the company owners go through everything so that they can really take that high-level overview and be able to choose which things they decide to implement in their business. Business development pretty much goes over everything besides owner retention and termination. And the property management teams go through everything because the understanding of how the sales process would work and how it will operate will impact greatly on the handoff, on the relationship afterwards, and having that continuity in terms of the owner experience. So the 3 certifications are based off of that as well. The Client Success Leader certification is for each team member. So this is, again, for the business development managers, for the property managers, etc. The Client Success Architect, this is for the executive. So if you're a big company, multiple markets across the country, and you also have your executive level. This is for them, the client success architect. And for each company that completes all tracks across their teams, will also get the client success firm badge that really highlights the company as the one who made the decision to focus on the benefit and the success of their clients. Something that you can use in your email signature, in your website, wherever you want it, and have that serve sort of like as a little reminder to your clients and prospective clients that you really are doing the best that you can for them as the client. What is the path? So again, you enroll your firm, and we will share the link and a QR code towards the end of this slide deck, where you can just scan it, go ahead, sign up, choose your track, decide which track is relevant for you by, again, routing based on your roles, completing those, running the simulations at the end, which is the final chapter of the course, and then getting the credential with the certificate that you can also put in your office. So if we're thinking about this course and like why we should take this course, what's the benefit of it, what it can change, what it can change on each specific role, or what it can change at the company level, what's the ROI there? So number one, lower churn. If you invest in the client experience, then that would mean higher NPS, better satisfaction, a lot more appreciation from the clients to us as their property manager, who's working very hard to make sure that their valuable asset is taken care of. Number two, more doors and higher customer lifetime value. By the end of this webinar already, you'll see how you can technically increase the revenue out of every account in your company, not just new leads that bring more revenue to your company, but actually more revenue from each and every account, whether that's through brokerage, renovations, 1031 exchanges, you name it, a lot of things that in many cases we don't track as part of our revenue per unit or as part of our customer lifetime value. And number three is a real career path. One of the things that I love the most in my time in the Navy is that I always had the next step to strive for. I was in the same role, but had different certifications. And that part of the whole, I would say, professional experience as someone who has a responsibility really created a lot of motivation and a lot of, I would say, devotion to the role and to the impact that is generated. And when you have that, instead of just a monotonous sort of like experience of doing tasks and completing them every day, that misses a little bit of that why. Why are we doing this? And I think when we look at this course as something that can remind us why we're doing what we're doing, we can probably find something really inspiring, which is we're impacting people's lives. We're impacting their ability to retire financially safe. We're impacting their stress level sometimes, especially if they're accidental landlords that are scared like crazy about this whole thing called rental property investments. So there is a true impact, especially if we understand that our focus is our clients that really come to us for true help, and we can really drive that. So theoretically, if we want to like break it down a little bit further, so what changes after the owner experience system is implemented? So number one, from the client relationship, so from just being just a vendor who answers emails and completes tasks, our clients will start to see us as a trusted advisor who's proactively offering guidance and recommendations. From a churn perspective, instead of being sort of like reactive in nature and being surprised by clients who say they want to leave or they want to sell without even letting us know enough time in advance, this is how we'll be able to actually surface those things earlier and be proactive about churn, get ahead of it, and be in control of our own destiny. From a revenue per door perspective, so we can increase, as we said, the revenue per unit. We can increase the customer lifetime value and generate more revenue for the business that would then be able to actually be invested in a better experience even more so after that point. Team development, as we said, there is a lot of, I would say, meaning to the why behind everything we're doing. And in this course, you'll be able to see how big the impact of what we're doing as property manager is for our clients. And as I said, we're really impacting lives of people significantly. From a sales handoff, so really creating this continuous experience. And instead of this, hey, we've signed the agreement, you're good to go, and then you're going into some uncharted territory, not knowing what happens. We want to make sure that handoff is really seamless and creates this continuous experience. And from a marketing position, from a market positioning, so we're going and changing our company from just another property manager in the market that does the same thing to a differentiated company, someone who is more of a trusted advisor to the client versus just another service provider. So this is really some of the things we can see right after. Now, to make this whole thing easier, from a perspective of implementing this whole mindset, this whole process, and this whole thing called owner experience management, we thought about how can we, as Blanket and as PMU, help do that thing way more easily. So we got two very interesting bonus reveals. Some of you who have been in the first webinar, you've probably seen that already. So bear with me here. But for anyone who didn't hear about this, this is going to be something that is going to be super, super exciting. So bear with us until the end of the webinar, and we'll be able to reveal that as well. So let's dive into it. And before we start again, if you have any questions, any thoughts, anything you want to share with us, submit that in the Q&A. Our team is here, and we'll be able to go through it at the end at the Q&A section. So business development mastery starting now. What are we going to learn today? Number one, how to spot the three owner personas in your first qualification call and what the different messaging should be, cadence or close that would win each one in every sales call. Number two, the sales to onboarding handoff that really turns that signed agreement into more of a confident client that can be more than just a client and be more of our ambassador that will come with two big wins and benefits. It would be a client that is less likely to churn and a client that is more likely to bring us more clients through referrals and recommendations. Number three, how business development leads the expansion motion. How can we, as we talked about it, how can we turn each account, each client into more revenue, into a higher client lifetime value, into a higher revenue per unit, and drive a lot of that growth going forward. So let's start with some context. What is the problem that we're facing as business development managers, or as I faced it as an operator that was in charge of sales as well? So I think the first thing we need to understand is, as everything in sales, it's all about personalization. If you try to fit the same script for every owner, your chances of closing them and adding another client go down significantly. And to do that, we need to understand what are the types of owners that we have and what messaging resonates with each one. So we're going to cover that in one of the next slides. But the main thing that we see across a lot of companies today is the same script, same owner, no personalization, and that really lowers your chances of increasing your close rate. Number two, we call it the feature dump over fit, meaning we're going into a sales call, whether it's the first introductory call or whether it's the actual sales meeting, and we're immediately leading with our services and our fees and what we can do for them instead of, first of all, understanding the client situation. One of the things that every sales guru advisor says, the less you talk in the call, the higher your close rate goes. Right? So if you are focused more on talking and presenting instead of asking questions, your close rate goes down. So if you can move from that feature dump motion or service dump motion to more of a discovery session, understanding what their situation is, what their problems, what their goals, what their expectations are, the close will be a given. And in many cases, they will even come from them before you even pitch the close itself. Number three, the silent handoff. The whole sort of like I would say approach of like, I got the sign, that's it, I'm out. This is where a lot of times we see the early churn creep up to us because there wasn't a proper handoff. There wasn't a continuous experience that had the same, I would say, feeling that the client had. And feeling is a big thing. We might not have the ability to quantify it, but the way our clients feel, in many cases that we wouldn't know about it, will impact how long they will stay with us, how fast we will close them, how much they will expend with us. So if we can understand this sort of like friction point of the handoff and how to make it better, this is where we can really win, not just at the beginning, but also every time and time again with this client as he stays with us and grows. So another thing that we need to talk about here is how are we compared as property managers to the potential clients that we have? And we'll get to the types of clients in a second, but what are our comparisons? So, of course, other property managers that can probably offer similar fees, similar service descriptions, but maybe winning on relationship, but losing on differentiation. Okay. So again, that depends on how each one structures themselves. Do-it-yourself platforms. There are about 10 property management softwares for DIY landlords. They offer lower monthly costs and they try to win on price for the owners who are maybe confident or maybe just crazy for managing their property themselves. I will go with the latter. But in many cases, they're losing those platforms when things go wrong. And if there's something you can bet on in real estate, things will go wrong. Things will be unexpected. Days on market will be worse than you think. There will be evictions. There will be things that you didn't, and it just will happen. So the software wouldn't really solve those things. The professional will solve those things. So I would see, and I predict that we will see a lot more do-it-yourself landlords, understanding how difficult it is, especially with the regulatory environment that we have that just gets crazier and more complicated than ever. I see that changing really fast, but we need to be aware that there are alternatives that are lower in costs significantly. So if we know that, we can make that distinction. Another thing that we also face when we're compared against is out-of-state managers that maybe have promises of national scale with bigger technology, larger footprint, and things like that. But this is where a lot of them potentially can lose on relationship, on the personal touch, on having that one person that is our point of contact. And that by itself is one of the most valuable things ever. As an owner myself with multiple property managers that manage my properties, I can tell you having that one person that I can pick up the phone call, not to bother them, of course, and probably hope never call, but like I know that I can, and I know there is something who cares about me. That person has a name, that person has a face, I know them. That by itself is one of the most valuable things that you can win with. And also something that to maybe even think about in the sales proposition. The other things we're compared against, especially in different market conditions, whether interest rates go down or other things that are happening. So selling the property is an alternative that we are actually competing against. And here, if we can explain the pros and cons when selling a property, when it comes to how much time it will take you to sell this property in today's market, which is very difficult, what is the price that you can get for it, and how much actually you would stay with from the cash proceeds after the real estate commission and after the profit gain taxes, you name it. So in some cases, a quick back of the napkin calculation can show them that the proper, I would say, solution is to go with us as their property manager. So if we're understanding that the market, I would say, trends right now, what owners comparing us against, how can we reach into this big world of so much information that people are seeing online, on social media, on their website, on their scrolling everywhere? We need to be able to separate ourselves from the crowd. And it's all about messaging. It's all about keywords. How can I say the right thing that wouldn't sound generic, that wouldn't sound like another pitch or another property manager, that will talk exactly to my pain points as a potential client? What am I dealing with right now that property manager already understands and feels what I'm going through? So here we'll start really this breakdown, and this is the theme that would lead us throughout this entire webinar, is the 3 owner types: the intentional investor, the unintentional investor, and the accidental landlord. So for those who don't know, I'll give a quick background of who each type is and what are their preferences, and then we'll start diving in. So the intentional investor, as it sounds, is the one who started investing in real estate with a clear intention. They want that passive income. They want to grow their portfolio. They're doing it on purpose. They haven't stumbled upon it by mistake like the accidental landlords, who either inherited a property or had to relocate, but the property that they were living in had like a 2.5 interest rate and they didn't want to say goodbye to it. So they decided to keep it for now and became a landlord. And we have the one in the middle, the unintentional investor, who is the accidental landlord turned into an aspiring intentional investor. Someone who saw that, hey, this thing called real estate investing actually works. right? It actually generates passive income and the property value grows. I can make money out of it. I can maybe build a portfolio. This is where the excitement starts to kick in. And these are the very interesting clients that are very hard to spot, but they are the ones that, if treated properly with the approach that they appreciate, they can be clients for life. These are pretty much most of my clients in the previous company that I worked for. They all started as someone who like thought about it, wasn't sure, stumbled upon it, but then got excited about it and grew their portfolio to like 2, 3, 4, 5 properties. So each and every one has their own preferences, their own perspectives. Now let's understand what speaks to each one. Okay. So for intentional investors, what is the thing that can really talk their language and make them listen and make them relate? So that's portfolio outcomes. That's reporting, rent optimization, not just rent collection, but rent optimization, some kind of an asset manager tone. And we'll talk about that as well, what that means. They should really feel like you understand investors and not just property owners, because the two are very, very different. So what words, let's say if you're using some kind of a paid promotion or a social media post, what things can talk their language and make them read that and continue going a little bit deeper to hopefully even click that button that is associated with that promotion. So words like portfolio, cap rate, NOI, rent optimization, asset performance, things that are more advanced. Now, it doesn't have to be something crazy. Just mentioning the word NOI is already very different from the entire property management sort of like market that they're probably coming in contact with, right? So these are the intentional investors. The unintentional investors, they're the ones who would appreciate if you lead with the education. Of course, peace of mind, better decision-making, but also they would really be excited about someone who has experience, who's a local real estate professional that can not only handle their property, but can also tell them why they're making each decision. What's the logic behind it? Whether it's how they price a rental property or how they decide whether should you sell or rent this property. When you share that sort of like guidance, decision support, and things like that, this is where they get excited because they are in a condition of fear at the moment. They know there's potential there, but they are scared to do more of that. They want to buy maybe another property if it makes sense, but they're scared of doing that. So to fill that gap, this is where education comes into play and really brings it home. So words that actually convert these types of folks, words like guidance, decision support, exploring options together with you, coaching you through every decision that we're making. And one thing that is important here, this is not an invitation to start explaining every little thing you do to your clients. No, that is something you don't want to get to. But with specific folks, and exactly, that's a dangerous path to take. But with specific folks who you know have that passion for learning and they want to do more, from time to time at very specific and big, I would say, milestones and crossroads in their journey, in their investing journey, tell them how to look at that situation. Don't ask for their opinion. Tell them the sort of like pros and cons of each and what is the recommended step they should take. This is how you can really give them that trust that they can learn a lot from you and they should run with you forward. Accidental landlords, go ahead.
Can I jump in real quick? One thing that I really find that's so helpful is normalizing that experience for the accidental landlord and sharing. Yes, the majority of the properties we manage are for intentional investors. These have been doing it a long time, but guess what? They all started somewhere, and most of them were just like you and were accidental landlords, and we helped grow them into that unintentional into the intentional phase. And so what we're doing is setting the stage for them, like kind of the light bulb goes off. They don't even know what their options are. And so then it's this aspiring investor. It's kind of what I think of it as my mind. So now they're, okay, great. So, I called you for relief, but there's this whole other thing that you're talking about. It gets that excitement that you mentioned about. And now they want to grow with you. I love it.
100%. I would add just one thing because some folks may be listening to this and thinking to themselves, oh, so let's turn everybody into intentional investors. Mm-hmm. It wouldn't work for everyone. And this is why when we started this webinar, I said, lead with one word today for this webinar: personalization. You can try to bring each and every one of them, which is a great outcome for both of you, because the more properties they own, the more properties you manage. The better properties they own, the less headaches you have, and the more revenue per unit you get. So there's a clear alignment of interest that if you bring each and every client to that point, then of course it's great, but not all are built for that. And we know that. Each one can probably think of a few names here in their client base that are like, they're never going to get it, like ever. They're going to stay away from it like fire. So we don't want to turn everyone to investors, but we want to turn as much as we can, because it's better for both of us, because we believe in this asset class. This asset class works. And maybe it's a topic for another maybe webinar, which is market sort of like dynamics and trends. But in my time in that company, we did an analysis on the entire market where we were sharing that sort of like a periodic trends every week. And you can see that the single family rental asset class, from a volatility and returns, outperformed every asset class. It had the least correlation, the lowest correlation to interest rates, and had almost the same IRR and returns as multifamily and commercial. So the least riskiest asset and the one that's generating almost the highest returns, this thing works. Now, again, there are market changes, like right now, cap rates are lower, cash flow is lower, but there's still opportunities. But when you combine that with appreciation, equity pay down, tax savings, this becomes a very favorable asset class. So why not help everyone benefit out of it? So totally agree with that. Again, everybody starts somewhere, everyone. So again, to the accidental landlords, the things that will make them click the button or listen to you is things that would sound and so like signal them on relief, right? We will take care of everything. We'll protect your home. That word protect immediately brings that sort of like emotional weight to it. Zero stress, handling it, all the stuff that are using sort of like verbs of we will do it. You will sit back and enjoy and don't have to worry about anything. And here I'll maybe add something else that is relevant for each and every one of these types. But more so, of course, for accidental landlords, something that worked perfectly in my time in that previous company that I worked for, where again, we had thousands of investors we worked with, and even more so, thousands of investors we actually tried to sell to. Because of course, there's always the close rate, which is lower than all the leads you convert. Amen to be able to convert all leads that come to us. But it's not the case. But one thing was consistent in every sales meeting that my sales team had. I always told them, do everything you can not to sell. Okay. I know it's crazy. It's sort of like provocative, but like the less you sell, the more you close. And I'll give an actual example of that. I told my sales team to tell the potential client everything that can go wrong. Make it scary. Make it like, it is, something that maybe I shouldn't be going into. But of course, when it comes with all the benefits of it, that creates trust. Because if you tell the client, listen, real estate is not exact science. It's not a perfect world. Things are going to break. That's the reality. Things are not going to go as planned, and there will be unexpected surprise. That's real estate. That is not something that anybody can change for you, no matter how good of a property manager they are. The only difference that we promise to you is that we will be there in those challenging moments. We will take care of that. You're coming to us to have a professional that will take that off your plate so that you don't have to care about it. But will things happen? They will. Two things happen here. One, you're setting expectations that if things are becoming a little bit more challenging, you already talked about it. You didn't paint a rosy picture. And second, you create trust. And the moment you have trust, this is when the close becomes way more easier. So instead of trying to paint a rosy picture of like, everything's going to be great, we're going to do everything and, everything's going to be on time, say the opposite. Say the opposite, and you'll see how the body language changes, the tone changes. Suddenly it's an open conversation about the reality and not about something that I need to believe. It's more about something that I can trust versus believe. So something super important, relevant for each and every one of these types. A little bit about channels. Again, it's a little bit about marketing. We're not going to dive into it in the course. We're really unpacking each and every channel, what works best, and how to operate in each channel. But of course, Google and local SEO. And again, here it's all about keywords and about personalization. You can either market to all three owner types, or you can market to just one. But if you will do the same generic messaging for all three, you wouldn't necessarily get the results that you can get. And this is the whole point. It's not about losing something. It's more about not getting some of the sort of like, as they say, money on the table that's there. So generic messaging loses, personalized messaging and keywords wins. Referral programs, also big lead channel for a lot of folks out there. Real estate agents, title companies, you name it. Anybody who is part of the real estate transaction can be a great referral program. But in this case, we're talking about the owners themselves, right? So how do you form this whole strategy of getting referrals from your clients to something more standardized? And it's all about what I call happy moments. Every little win that maybe we consider as the property manager it's part of the process. It's a given, right? The first rent collected for an owner that has their first property, right? To us, that maybe seems okay, another step in the process. To them, that's a huge win. That's like, wow, this thing works. I actually got paid for it. So think from that perspective of like what they experience as a happy moment and just capitalize on that. Celebrate it with them. Don't send just like the owner statement and here first rent collected and that's done. Send a happy email, do some confetti. I don't know, but like make it something celebratory that they can really be excited about. And this is where you ask for the referral. This is where you say, are there any other folks? Like you would first ask for feedback. How was the process so far? What did we sort of like meet the expectations that you had? And if so, do you have any other folks that might benefit from this partnership that we have? Yes, amazing. We'll even maybe, I don't know, give you 1 month of management free. You wouldn't pay for next month management fees because you sent us a referral or some kind of another thing that makes it even sweeter. But the strategy for referral programs in-house, happy moments, happy moments, happy moments. Next up, content and educational assets. This is again where you reinforce the fit between your company and whatever specific owner type you're targeting. So if you're targeting, let's say, accidental landlords, rent versus sell calculators, perfect fit. This is the thought they always have. Should I rent? Should I sell? I don't know. Hold versus refi guides. This is maybe more for the like unintentional investors that maybe have one property, they're thinking about buying another one, they have some equity in their current property, and they're not sure should they use that equity from that property to buy another one or should they just wait a little bit longer, right? So think about these little things that are more relevant to each client type and create content for that. Create it as a lead magnet that they can download in exchange for their email address or phone number, and then go ahead. You can lead with a potential sales call. Number 4, real estate agent partnerships. It's a given. One of the best things I always tell to our clients at Blanket is that don't just lead with the referral fee that you'll pay them when they send you a lead. Be that sort of like partner that can help them be more relevant to investor buyers, because most agents today are struggling with deals. There was a crazy stat a couple of months ago from NAR about like 90-something% of agents almost not doing any deals this year. The market is hard. So if you can help them understand that there's an ability to generate more sales by maybe being a partner to one of your clients when they want to sell or when they want to buy or something like that, build it more around that rather than just an additional $500 that they get paid. Because that $500 is not the thing they're building their business on, more so deal volume. So if you can speak and think of how you can increase deal volume for them or how they can position themselves as more relevant for investors, buyer as well, this is where you can really win. Because one of the things I can tell you personally that most agents don't know how to do is to work with investor buyers. They struggle a lot with, helping them get a rental estimate. They struggle a lot with maybe giving them a pro forma to understand if this property is a good cash flowing property. This is where they will maybe approach you or maybe approach some different turnkey operator to help them. So if you can be that person who will help them be more relevant and increase their deal flow, that's where you win. And of course, social and community, go to different Facebook groups, different forums, different meetups with investors, right? And if you have, for example, access to clients who are selling their properties, right? Whether you're the broker selling them or you're referring them to someone else, you can tell to potential investor communities, hey, I've got a lot of clients that sometimes sell a property. If you want to, maybe catch up and talk about a potential partnership, I can help you, maybe get some off-market inventory that you can't find anywhere else by working with us. Start that as a conversation starter, but then build a relationship that can lead to potentially him becoming a client as well with you, because they'll see how you think as an investor. You're talking off-market inventory terms and things like that. And this is where they can really see that you're not just another property manager. You're a property manager that understands investors. Okay, so go ahead.
Just one
Yeah,
second.
Jason.
None of these approaches are quick fixes. They take time. You have to plant the seed. You have to get creative. The creative will win. Get out there, build the relationships, and it may be a year or a year and a half before you get a referral. But if you go out and plant seeds in each one of these channels and you nurture it and cultivate it, they will start trickling in. And in a year, 18 months down the road, you're not going to have to worry about a deal source.
100%. Good point there, Jason. Really, it's about short-term versus long-term channels. Some of these channels, I would say even a big portion of them are long-term channels, but the moment they're set, I know of a few clients of Blanket that don't do any paid advertising, don't spend almost no money on marketing. Almost all of their leads consistently come from referral partnerships, come from content they've generated online, just that inbound flow that doesn't cost them anything, maybe besides some time. They were either already invested or they're still investing a little bit more of that, but not additional capital. So really, I call it the seeding motion. You plant the seeds and then you let them grow. And once they grow, you have a full field that you can harvest. So good point on that, Jason. Totally agree. So now, let's say we set up that motion of long-term and we got that inbound lead flow coming in. How do we spot each and every client, right? And each and every owner type. So again, we have the intentional investor, we have the unintentional investor, and we have the accidental landlord. What questions can we ask to quickly spot them? So question number one is, how did you come to own this property? Or how did you start? Hear their origin story. You'll immediately see from the words they're using or how they came about it, whether it's an intentional, unintentional, or accidental landlord. Question number two, how many rental properties you own? If they have a portfolio like of 3 properties, they probably are intentional investor unless their parents, left them those properties that they owned, and then maybe that's the case. But in most cases, anybody that has like 3+ properties, he's probably an intentional investor. If they have 1 or 2 properties and they're curious, you got the unintentional one. If they're hesitant and they have only 1 property, you got the accidental. What does success look like in the next 12 to 24 months or even longer in the 5 years? Or what are your goals for the next 10 years or 5 years? If they're saying, I want to grow a portfolio, here, you either got an intentional or an unintentional investor. If they're asking about education, can you help me make the right decisions? Same thing. If they say, I just want to sell the property in a year or 2 or something like that, very quickly understand that's an accidental landlord. Another question, have you worked with another property manager before? If they did, they already understand how it works. They understand the expectations, they understand what's good, what's bad relatively. And if they didn't, then yes, of course, it's an accidental landlord. Last question is, how involved do you want to be in the day-to-day? This is a tricky one. Communication preferences is number one. It's like understanding, okay, what should you expect from me as your property manager? What should I expect from you as my client as well? It goes both ways. It's not a one-sided story. So the intentional investors would normally probably want low involvement unless if they have a character or a type. They're like a control freak. They want to know everything. And they're like, tell me what's this? Why did this happen? Why did that happen? So it ranges. This one is a tricky one. Accidental landlord want frequent reassurance. They would probably the ones that would need like the explanation on why did this happen? Why did that happen? And so like using those, I would say, words of emotions, right? The protection and all those things. And you'll hear that in how they present the answer to this question, right? Things like, I just want to know that everything is okay. I just want to know that my property is well managed and it's protected. Very easily, you can understand that. So these are just some of the questions. We go in the course on over a lot more questions. And if you do them right, first of all, you would win that sales call by asking more, understanding more, rather than just pitching and presenting your services. And by them answering those questions, you already make them understand how needed a professional property manager is to really help them with their needs. So again, more questions and quick understanding which owner type this is, so you can really nail the close. So what is the best close with these types of clients? So the intentional investor would really appreciate if, besides just telling them, hey, this is what we're going to do, you'll offer them some kind of a diagnosis, right? You'll tell them, hey, before you even work with me, I'm going to diagnose your portfolio. I'm going to see where there are things that can maybe improve. What are the properties that are doing great? Where maybe there are opportunities to generate more revenue by maybe increasing the rent, by maybe renovating the property and increasing the rent. Or maybe there's a property in your portfolio right now that is doing so bad that you should just 1031 exchange it, sell it, replace it with a better property. You'll have better cash flow, better appreciation potential, less headaches, and you're winning, right? So by offering this very little thing of a quick diagnosis, that's it. You're winning them because you're already doing something that is different from every property manager that just tells them what their services are and what they're going to do for them. So lead with the diagnosis and you'll win the intentional investor every time, because it will be also your opportunity to show that you understand the language, the terms, and how they think, right? Number two, for the unintentional investor, reduce perceived risk. Okay, so here we need to show them where they stand today, sort of like look at yourself with an unintentional investor as sort of like a teacher, right? So like a teacher that tells them how they're doing today. These are the potential opportunities in the future and whether you can get them and how you can help them avoid mistakes. And always lead with that education part, right? Because they're excited to learn more, and you can tell them, about your experience, about everything you've went through, the good, the bad, and you will use that experience to make them understand that they can avoid any mistakes going forward because you've already went through those mistakes. This is where you win all the time, right? If they can feel guided and not sold, done. That's a winner. The accidental landlord, again, calm the fear, talk about emotions, explain, of course, all the technical things, but talk about those things about protecting their property, caring about their property, and clarify that they don't need to be sort of like investment experts. They don't need to understand how everything is going because you'll explain to them in a very simple language without the fancy jargon. You'll tell them exactly how it is in a way that they can understand and feel safe. Once you're using those words, this is where you win. And again, think about it this way. Personalization is words, what words you use. With the intentional investor, if you use words like cap rate, NOI, portfolio analysis, things like that, you're talking their language. The unintentional investor is more about explaining terms, showing them that you can be their sort of like real estate expert and guide them through the way. And the accidental landlord, words like feelings, protection, safety, etc. This is how you speak to them, and this is how they listen. Common mistakes. Pitching before diagnosing, this is what we've talked about. Selling tasks and not outcomes, right? You can, of course, say that you're going to collect the rent, you're going to take care of the maintenance and everything, but that's dry, right? If you'll talk about what will be the outcome of that work, this is where you increase your close rates, because this is what is important. Everybody thinks to themselves when they're being pitched and sold, what's in it for me? So what's in it for me can be peace of mind, wealth creation, cash flow, you name it. Another mistake is one message that fits all. This is what we talked about. Personalization. Discounting to close. A discount in many cases signals the price was inflated. If you want to do something different when somebody asks for a discount or something like that, tell them no problem. Which services would you like us not to take care of for you? Because when you're giving a discount, you're making your product or service way less valuable. But if you're extracting different services from your overall offering, there's a price of that discount. And you want to set that to the person that's asking for the discount. You want a discount? No problem, but there's a price to it. Price with less services or less oversight, right? You don't necessarily would do that, but it will signal them that, hey, our price, our service has a certain price and it has value to it. And this is why this is the price. Handoff by email after the PMA is signed, and then radio silence for 2 weeks. We've saw that happening in many companies. This is where buyer remorse starts to creep in, right? Like, was it the right choice? Like, why is nobody talking to me? I don't feel like there's a very professional management of the process. So you want to keep that momentum going, that same level of energy from the sales meeting all the way through the first rent collected and ongoing from there. Again, the sales and onboarding handoff, as we said, you want to do a warm human handoff. You want to confirm and communicate. Okay, so like, of course, setting up all the technical stuff, administrative stuff, and then on the first win, celebrate it together. Celebrate it, whether that's the first rent collected, the first issue resolved, or you name it, celebrate those wins. The things that we think that are just part of the process to our clients in many cases are either very scary or a very happy moment. Talk their language, talk their feelings, what they're feeling, and then use that to actually capitalize for more referrals and other stuff as well. How do we take this whole thing into expansion, right? How do we turn every property, every unit to more revenue? So number one, when folks want to sell, that's a potential commission for us. When folks have a bad performing property, and this is one of the things we always hear from our clients at Blanket, if I share with them the performance of their properties that are really doing bad, wouldn't it be like a dangerous thing to do? No, on the contrary, you want them to know that there's a bad for performing property because they know it already technically. They feel it, maybe not to the dollar amount, but they feel it. But if you can be the one proactively reaching out to them and saying, hey, let's say I'm reaching out to Jordan. Jordan, I just looked at the data and I see that your property is not doing that great. I see that you've spent a lot of money on maintenance and I know that probably feels like a lot. And I see that there were some issues with like the last renewal and things like that. You share the reality as it is. And then you say, listen, we've talked about it in our team and we try to look at the pros and cons. And maybe the best thing to do is just 1031 exchange this property. Replace it with a better one in a better area that maybe has a better rent potential, better appreciation potential, and less headaches for you. What do you think about that? Boom, suddenly the whole conversation changes. It's not a problem that like I'm responsible for. No, it's a problem with the property that you bought it. I didn't sell it to you. And I'm actually here to help you through it. So all these opportunities to solve problems for your clients are revenue opportunities. For example, renovating a property, same thing. Maybe you have a maintenance division or you're just charging markups on renovations. If you see properties that are really doing bad on maintenance expenses and are investing so much money way beyond the normal, reach out to them, say, hey, it might not stop in the next couple of years and you'll have to spend more money. Why wouldn't we just go do a thorough renovation, deal with all those problematic issues that are coming up, and maybe even have a chance to increase the rent on the property, increase your cash flow. So again, solving problems means more revenue, not just by satisfaction, but by actual additional revenue that is added. The happy owner flywheel, as I call it, again, that structured referral programs, ask for positive feedback after every happy moment. And the last thing is portfolio growth. You have clients who are selling, sell it to one of your other clients. By selling it to one of your other clients, you're also getting the commission and also retaining the unit. So it's a double win. And again, this whole thing that we normally don't count in the typical RPU calculation, the revenue per unit, these are the things that can more than double our client lifetime value. In certain markets, the commission from the sale of that property can be 5 or 7 times the management revenue on an annual basis. So a sales commission can offset the entire, not offset, but double the client lifetime value. I'm going to run forward through it because I want to be respectful of everybody's time and I want to leave enough time for questions. So quick overview of the business development track and what we're going to actually talk about in the entire course. So in the course, we're going to start with chapter 1, who's broken down into 3 sub-chapters, which includes a market overview, understanding the trends in the single family rental market, in the residential market, and what those trends mean to us as property managers. Where are the risks and where are the opportunities? Number 2, we're going to get into performance management 101 or asset management 101. What is the difference between asset management and property management? Why is asset management actually the key to client success and to us generating more revenue and increasing retention? And lastly, in that chapter 1, we're going to talk about the entire client lifecycle. Each stage is going to be reviewed on a high-level overview, which is marketing, sales, onboarding, retention, expansion, and termination. Okay. And then the next chapters are going to dive into each and every one. In marketing, we're going to talk about the different channels, positioning, and what is the right message to get every potential client to click a button. In sales, we're going to talk about the qualification framework, the personalization, and how to get each new lead to actually sign the agreement. On onboarding, we're going to dive into the handoff and what a proper handoff and a proper onboarding process looks like. And on the expansion side, we're going to see exactly how the full brokerages and expansion playbook and other ancillary revenue streams can fit into the entire business development motion and generate more revenue for the company. And lastly, we're going to close it off by actual case studies. We're going to have a case study of an intentional investor, unintentional investor, and accidental landlord, and we're going to unpack them through each life cycle stage: marketing, sales, onboarding, retention, expansion, and termination. And we're going to see how we should act in each and every one. One last main takeaway that I want to leave here is that the best business development teams don't sell harder. They diagnose faster, hand off cleaner, and let expansion follow the trust that is built in that sort of like first impression that was made. That's how the assigned to PMA actually becomes a lifelong client for 10, 15, and 20 years forward. Jason, maybe let's do a little stop about the enrollment to the course to see how people can take advantage of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Lior. You guys, Lior has brought a lot of meat, and it's so much to cover in a 45-minute or an hour webinar. Okay, so what we've had the opportunity to do is to take this information and this approach and put it into a structured learning path that's mastery based. It builds on one another, and as Lior mentioned, it's 8 chapters, and it's I would say you got to take it. We unpack all of this, we put it into a structured environment where you can take it, you get a certificate, you can retake it, and give you some training. And I think from the previous course that we did, some of our greatest feedback that we've already had, I don't know if this has been shared with you, Lior, or not, but is the case studies, the scenarios. That is where the rubber meets the road. So I would highly encourage you, scan this QR code, go and take the course. It's free. The professional track, as Lior mentioned, it's 8 chapters, and give us your feedback. But it's impressive. It's worth doing it.
The feedback is super, super important. And again, as Jason said, there are different tracks. We have the tracks for you as the company owner, the track for you as the business development team, the sales rep, or anybody who's in charge of sales, whether it's real estate sales or business development, and the property management team, of course. You'll see that once you scan the QR code, and we'll share also a link to the actual page in the chat, so you can just click on the link instead of scanning the QR code, because we ran fast through it. And if you have any questions, of course, let us know. And more so, as Jason said, the more feedback you give us, the better we can improve it, the better we can bring you more information and really customize it to the point that it will be the most inclusive training when it comes to client management. As promised, and before we go to Q&A, the 2 bonuses that we promised that will make this whole transition of moving from this sort of like service provider mindset to more of a trusted advisor mindset, that is all dependent on this sort of like course that we're talking about in this topic of owner experience management. So the 2 things we're offering here are as follows. Number 1, this is something that is not yet revealed to the public, and it's going to be revealed very soon. So anybody that's on the webinar today got first sort of like, I would say, spoiler alert of what Blanket is going to announce very soon on September 1st. We have built the first AI native client-centric CRM that really takes the entire client lifecycle from marketing all the way to termination and is doing the work for you. Instead of being another software that you work on with our AI agents, one of them is our super BDM, the other one is our super PM, and the third one is our super broker. Those 3 operate sort of like over the CRM, and they just do the work for you. You approve whatever you need. You can just let it run free, but it's really going to be something life-changing. I promise you, we've already started using it for our own company because of how good that was, and you'll see that it's really amazing. So this would help you save a lot of time as you're implementing the whole owner experience management process and the whole owner experience management mindset It will guide you through every step. So definitely worth looking into. You don't have to sign up, but you can just take a look at the demo, see if it can really drive impact for your business, and then decide. So something really cool. To any Blanket client or anybody that signs up for Blanket, that CRM is coming for free. Jordan, Jason,
Yep.
what do we got from
Yep. I'm going to take
PMU?
this. So, yeah. So we're proud to offer $1,000 in PMU, Property Management University credits, toward our company campuses, which are a custom white labeled campus for your team where we load all of your team's training in one place. So you have a one dashboard to see what and who on your team is taking what. And that also includes a custom course of one of your own standard SOPs that we will build out for your team to take. So proud to offer that. So it's a really great platform for you to see your team's entire training in one platform, so you know that it's being taken care of.
Well, I can say as someone who also has a team that wanted to really have this sort of like very standardized training, the thing that I always struggle with is really how do I oversee things? How do we make sure that everybody's running course? And how do I also, hold everybody accountable and make sure that everybody's completing the course? This is something that as a team was always hard for us. And by what PMU did is really taking off that off your plate. So highly recommended. Training is one of the biggest challenges every company faces, not just in property management. And PMU with their system, with their campus is really life-changing. I got to tell you guys, I've seen a lot of platforms. We used Udemy and other stuff. Nothing takes more accountability and execution than the PMU platform. So highly recommended. And now time for questions. I know we're almost technically we're on time, but we can stay here for anybody that wants to stay a little bit longer and ask any questions. I'm here for you. And of course, if you come up with any questions after that, let us know. Send us those, whether through email, we'll be reaching out as well. But anything that comes up to mind, let us know and we'll be more than happy to help. So Q&A.
All right, I don't see anything in there right now. Whether it's a question about sales or hey, questions about the courses or anything else, we happily address any of those.
I always say if there are
Lior
no
and we could
questions,
sit here for an hour and just keep going, and this is my jam. So I could talk about sales all day long. Property
100%.
management
And
sales.
100%. Yeah, we're here. We got the time left. And I will say if there are no questions, it's either we've done a really good job or a really poor job. So hopefully that's the part with the good job. But again, in many cases, I know was also a lot of information, a little bit of an overflow. So if you have any questions later on, let us know. And if there are not, so we'll wish you an awesome day, guys. Hopefully this was interesting and exciting, and hopefully you'll be able to see I would say the calling that we have as property managers. We're really impacting people's lives. And if we really understand that, we can win them every time and we can win them as partners for life. I'm with my property manager for like 15 years now. And that's really because he understands me. He sees me. He cares about me. And even though he might not be the fastest or the best, but like he cares about me. That's the reason why I'm staying with him. So if you can understand that mindset, you can win clients like me for life. So with that in mind, I think maybe we can conclude, Jordan.
Yep, let's go ahead and do that. But just quick reminder, register for episode 3 next Tuesday, August 25th. We've got a link down in the chat right there. We'll leave it up there for a second, but we will go ahead and let you guys go, get back to your day. But thank you for being here. Hope this was helpful. See you guys next week. Have a great one.
See you guys. Bye-bye.